Hello everyone. I know it has been a while since I've actually done a video or an educational video, and I'm sorry about that, but my living situation is not ideal. But anyway, along like everybody else, we just have to push through and just do what we can do. So today I wanted to talk to you guys about the FEMA Risk Rating 2.0. Um, I'm not sure if a lot of you have heard. For some reason, it's not getting nearly as much attention as really I think it should, because us here in South Louisiana, it really does affect us a lot. So a lot of people have heard, my flood insurance is going to be going up to this, or I'm trying to build a house and now my flood insurance is going to be this much money, and how is anybody going to afford it, and things like that. So we're going to talk about it. So I do want to disclose I am not an insurance writer. I don't work for an insurance company. Anything that I say is because I have been told by someone that works in the insurance industry. But I'm not. I did fact check it, based off of them being educated in it. So just make sure, if you have any additional questions or anything like that, you can contact me. I can try to go through them, get the answers for you. But if not, reach out to your insurance, your flood insurance provider, and ask them. They would be like the best route to go whenever you want to know about your flood insurance. So I'm just going to kind of give you some cliff notes about this new FEMA Risk Rating 2.0. We're going to talk about why. We're going to talk about who is it affecting, what are the changes, how to avoid additional problems, and private insurance. So we're going to discuss that today. So why? Why is FEMA doing this? And the reason is because before, if you were in a non-flood zone or X or a C, your flood premiums were really low. And if you were in a flood zone, AE 899 or AE 99, there's several different ones, then your insurance premium is based on the elevation of your house. So we would have to get an elevation certificate and then show that to them, and then they'll say, okay, well, your house is this much above sea level, so your flood insurance is XYZ. For the most part, if you were raised up, your premiums were low. Well, that was not working. And with the technology that we have these days, they started to utilize that and came up with a new program to actually zone in to the house and figure out how far you are from the nearest access to water. And so if that water was to flood, how close are you to flooding? So they were able to really tell us, through being in an X-flood zone versus a flood zone, they may say, oh, you're 20% to flood because your house is raised up even though you're in a flood zone, where this new technology, it's more like, no, you're probably going to flood once every 20 years or 10 years or something like that. So with this technology, they were able to see that they were not charging us enough, and that's why they were losing money. So FEMA took over and came out with this new program. So that is why. So some people, you will see that your flood insurance is lower if you are nowhere near the bodies of water or any creek or anything like that, any stream of water that could potentially overflow. So I have not met anyone personally that their flood insurance is going to be lower. Everybody around here, it is higher, extremely a lot higher. So before, if you were in a non-flood zone, you had premium rates. It's no longer like that. If you are in a non-flood zone, then for instance, like here in St. Charles Parish, Willowdale is a flood zone. Mimosa is not a flood zone. So before, if you were in Mimosa, your flood insurance was, $550, $600 a year. It's not going to be like that anymore because you are going to probably flood. If I flood in Willowdale, Mimosa is more than likely going to flood. And so then that's the way they look at it. It doesn't matter if you're in a non-flood zone or flood zone. It's how close we are to the water. We're pretty much equally the same close to the water. So, the only thing that if you're in a non-flood zone versus a flood zone is if your mortgage company requires you to have flood insurance. And we'll get into that a little bit in a little bit. So, who is affected by it? Pretty much anybody that is near water. So, pretty much all of us here will be affected by it. How to avoid additional problems. So, the main thing we have to do is to keep our policy active. So, if you had it, this all went into effect October 1st. They didn't give us much time to prep for this. They didn't give us enough time to go and bind insurance or anything like that prior to. They didn't even roll it out until 2 weeks before it was going into effect. So they strategically did that so everybody that didn't have insurance didn't just go and get insurance, because even if you tried 2 weeks prior, it takes 30 days to go in effect. Unless you're buying a house, then it goes into effect right away. So the people that got to buy on September 30th, they were able to get the cheaper, older premiums. And, but anybody that bought a house after October 1st is paying the new premium rates. Unless you can assume the person's flood policy. So if you're buying a house and you want to assume their flood policy, you can assume it and, not have to pay the high flood policy. So you want to avoid additional problems. Let's say you have a house that's paid off and you have flood insurance. Do not let that go. Keep paying your flood insurance, because if you ever go to sell it, they're going to want to assume your policy. Now, this is just to help us with transactions now, because even if you assume someone's policy, your flood insurance is still going to go up to the new rates. So insurance can only legally go up 18% on your premium a year. So if you assume someone's flood policy and they're paying $1,000 a year, then the next year it will go up to 18% over $1,000. Then the next year after that, 18% over, all the way till you get to the new FEMA risk rating 2.0. So to give you an example, I'm going to use my house as an example. So this is my current flood policy right here. So with flood insurance, it doesn't matter how much your house is worth. The max you can get for flood insurance is $250,000 for the dwelling and $100,000 worth of contents. Now, I had, which I didn't realize because I would have had the most possible, but somehow I didn't. So my building contents is $250,000, which is the max you can get, and my contents is $50,000. So I've been having this since I purchased my house, and I just kind of keep renewing it. My flood policy is $562 a year. Okay. Now every year it's going to go up to my new premium. So I called and I said, okay, if I didn't have insurance, or if I didn't let somebody assume my policy and I wanted to sell my house, what would my new buyer's premium be through the new 2.0? So they ran it with the same amount of coverage, with the same $250,000 building content coverage and the $50,000 worth of contents. Y'all, $6,600, let's see, can y'all see it? And $7. $6,607. It's like over $500 a month. So, how is this going to affect us? Well, I know eventually this is what I'm going to be paying for my house, is flood insurance, no matter what. And, you know, it's not going to make a difference if you're in a flood zone or non-flood zone. Even non-flood zones are going to have a high policy just like this, because they're in the same distance from the water as I am. Even if you have an elevation certificate, it has a very minimal effect on your policy. Maybe $100 or something like that if you're really high up. So even having an elevation certificate now, it doesn't matter at this point anymore. So, do you have to have flood insurance? And the answer is yes. Unfortunately, we do all have to have flood insurance, especially if you're getting a mortgage. If you're getting a mortgage, the lender is going to want to protect their asset that they just loaned you a ton of money to buy, so they're going to force you to have flood insurance. So whenever you're buying a house, it's all based on debt to income. So they're going to figure out, they're going to figure out how much could you afford monthly. So basically, with your income and with your debt, you can afford a $1,500 payment a month. So they're going to say, okay, Brandy, you can go find a house with a $1,500 a month payment, and that including all of your escrows, meaning your property taxes, your homeowner's insurance, and your flood insurance if you're in a flood zone. So remember, if you're looking for a house, you need to find out what is your budget in a flood zone and what is your budget in a non-flood zone. So if I'm going to buy a house and I can only, in the mortgage company's eyes, I can only afford $1,500, and I go to buy my house now, and my premium now is, right now, if people assume it's a lot lower, okay? So it's going to take years and years to get to this high premium. But let's say we are 15 years down the road and I'm now paying $6,600 a year in flood, and I go to sell my house. That person, if they can only afford $1,500 a month, including all of your escrows, they would have to account for like over $500 of that to go just towards your flood insurance, not including your homeowners and your property taxes. So, that might bring your budget of, I don't know, $275,000 down to $200, because that's $500 a month going just to insurance, not going towards your interest or principal. So that is going to make a big difference in our buying power years down the road. Now, right now, if we can assume people's policies, it's going to take, if I sold my house today and I let them assume my policy, they're going to be back down to the 500 and something and go up 18% every year until they reach that max. Now, with new construction, the problem is if you build a house, there's no insurance policy to assume. And if I'm getting a loan to build my house, I'm going to be forced to carry that. So, not really sure how that is going to affect our housing market as far as new construction goes. Now, if you're in a non-flood zone, you're not required to carry it, but you're at the same risk as everybody else to flood. So, just because you're in a non-flood zone doesn't mean that house is not going to flood. So if you choose to not carry flood insurance, that is just, a risk that you're willing to take. So, let's see what to do. So how to avoid problems. If you have flood insurance, do not let it lapse. Keep paying it. Some of you aren't familiar with repetitive loss, but what that is if your house floods 2 times within a 10-year span, your house is considered a repetitive loss house, and your flood insurance is really high. Like, before even the 2.0 program, if you were a repetitive loss house and you were in a flood zone, you were already paying $6,000 a year, more than likely. And even in a non-flood zone, and it was a repetitive loss house, you're probably still paying $2,000 to $3,000 a year. So repetitive loss is going away. Like, it's non-existent anymore. It's not going to happen. But all of our houses, with this new 2.0 risk rating, it's actually going to give everybody a clean slate. Nobody had any claims as of October 1st, unless you made a claim after that. But October 1st, every house starts off with a clean slate. So there's no past history on it. There's nothing. So your premiums are based on you not ever making a claim. Now, here is the kicker. If you make a claim, they are going to open back the book of your past claims. So they're trying to prevent you from making a claim. If you do make a claim, then let's say you already made 2 claims in the past 30 years. You make a claim with the new one, well, now you're going to have 3 claims on your policy, and it is going to affect your premium. So, and our premiums are already going to be really high. So I guess that's their way to try to get us to not just make a flood claim for, I don't know, something small. Who knows? But I mean, heck, we got insurance to use it if we need it. So Let's see. I wish I could open up for questions. Just comment below if you have a question. I'll do the best I can to answer it. Or the best thing to do is to call your insurance carrier, and they can probably be able to answer it more in depth than what I can. I kind of am giving you the just the basics of what I know and what I can really say as a realtor. Let's get right into private insurance, because right now a lot of people are just going through FEMA, and very rarely do people actually go through private flood insurance companies. But I think now people will start looking into it a little more. So the difference between a private flood insurance company versus FEMA is, with FEMA, the max coverage you can have is $250 for your dwelling and $100,000 for contents is the most. Also, with your contents, they actually give you what it's worth today. So, you'll have a dresser that's you paid $500 for, but it's only worth $100 today. So that's all they're going to give you. With private, you can actually get replacement coverage. So you would actually get what it would cost for you to replace today. Typically, it was more expensive. From what I've heard, it is cheaper than FEMA. But I did get a quote for myself for my house, and that was not the case for me. But remember, with flood, with the new technology now, everybody's house is going to be on its own. It doesn't go by neighborhood, doesn't go by area anymore. It's like your house has a longitude and latitude, and X marks the spot, and that's how they're coming up with your premium. So your neighbor is going to probably have something different than you. So I got my private insurance for flood. So remember, right now I pay $562. My max with FEMA will be $6,607. Eventually, one day, hopefully something changes before then and this gets fixed somehow. But if I chose to go through a private insurance, which I've heard was actually cheaper, that's why I reached out to my agent and I said, can you quote me on it? And she did. So for a $5,000 deductible, which currently right now it's only $1,250. So it would be $85.65. So it would actually be a good bit more. And if I wanted a $1,000 deductible, it would be $94.82 for my insurance. So going through a private insurance, it's like that's not going to help me in my case. Some people it might actually help, because I've heard that it is cheaper in some cases. So remember, everybody's house is different. So make sure you reach out to your insurance agents and what your other options are if you're, looking for other options. So if y'all have any questions, reach out to me. I'm Brandy Nichols with GL Realty, and I'm a realtor. I am not an insurance agent, so if you do have specific questions about your policy and what it would be, your insurance would be, reach out to your insurance agent. And if you need a couple of referrals, I can send you some names and numbers of a few different ones that I use. So thank you for listening today. I know this was a long one, and most of my trainings or educational videos is not anywhere near this length. But if you have any questions, I'm never too busy to help. Just reach out. Bye.